Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Things are getting really tense with this whole Lane Kiffin thing. Yeah, Ole Miss is becoming very pessimistic about Lane Kiffin's future there. His press conference was very, it was hard to really glean anything that would make you think, yeah, he's staying. And the folks down at Ole Miss are becoming very resigned to the fact that he's probably going to leave. Is that fair to Ole Miss? Absolutely not. Is it the reality? Probably. And the reporters are starting to get a little bit annoyed because they won't answer any questions.
Expects a decision on Saturday. Is that a decision that's been made, or is that still in consideration? Like, people are just curious about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can just keep going. I'm not going to answer them, so that's 3 of them. You got another one?
You know what's funny? For a guy that puts his 2 cents into everything, he's Mr. Troll. He loves getting involved in whether a quarterback's getting benched, like DJ Lagway. He had an opinion on that and put that out on his Twitter.
I must notify Gossip Girl. Pass this along to Gossip Girl. It's me. I'm Gossip Girl.
And loves doing stuff like that. But when he's asked a direct question that involves Ole Miss that reporters need to ask, oh, I'm just not going to answer that. What are you deaf? You can't hear me? I said, I'm not going to answer it. I'm only going to talk about the game. Well, here's the thing, Lane. People don't want to watch you be a total hypocrite and talk about everything in the world except things that directly involve you, especially when a reporter has a job. He's going to ask you over and over until you answer it. And this business of, I'm only going to talk about the game, okay. But they're going to keep asking because they have to. And you know that. And Paul Feinbaum had an opinion on this on the McElroy and Kubelik in the morning show. And he is not, look, we all know Paul does not care for Lane too much.
If he ends up staying at Ole Miss, I think he has done that program a disservice by humiliating them in the process. Because anybody who cares about a university would not subject themselves, to what has happened. Although we all know that Kiffin on Saturday, assuming he stays there, will blame this on a bunch of reporters who had bad information, even though he could have denied this at any point at any time. But Greg, you said it all. I'm now doing a Keith Carter statement for something you summed up about 3.5 minutes ago. Lane Kiffin is loving every minute of this.
He may be loving it, but his reputation, look, he's already disliked intensely in the state of Tennessee. That's probably going to wind up being the case in Mississippi. So he's going to have 2 states that do not care for him. And I will say this to Ole Miss fans, you think you're frustrated with him now? Just wait. I know his MO. Just saying. And we're going to talk more about that here in a second, because I'm not the only one that knows what's going to happen here when he leaves. Now, the Locked On Ole Miss guy, he's as dialed in as you can be. And this is probably going to be one of the most difficult weeks, even though everybody's going to be watching this show. This is Stephen Willis on Locked On Ole Miss. This is beyond frustrating for him because he's an Ole Miss guy, and he doesn't want Lane to leave. He hates this. I've watched a bunch of his programs, and you can just feel it. But he also has to be honest, which is what he's really good at, and he's preparing his viewers to, this could go bad. And he's not liking where the tea leaves are reading. Now, nobody wants him to stay probably more than this guy, but it's not looking good.
Questions about the Ole Miss football program and where it stands. That was it. That's all he was willing to talk about. But he was very much talking like this and just trailing off his words like this. And it was almost like a child, for instance, that knew he had been caught. He was in trouble. He was obviously uncomfortable. And the one thing that you could take away from that press conference is that he wasn't going to be back. This was kind of a last hurrah in a press gathering type situation other than after the game against Mississippi State. So that is one thing that you could take away from what is going on.
Yeah, I didn't like that press conference. Like I said, it was just, well, I showed you a little bit of it. Not only was he getting testy, he was talking about how easy it is for him to leave and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to talk about that too, because I got a bad feeling how he's going to exit. And this guy talks about it a little bit. And then I'm going to tell you what, look, like I said, I've seen how he does.
if Lane Kiffin leaves, which it looks like he will, if today's press conference was any indication. That is going to be interesting, but I fully expect him, based on history, just purely on history, to try and gut Ole Miss's roster, because that's what he did at Tennessee. That's what he did at USC. That's what they did at Alabama whenever he went to FAU. He got a couple of players to transfer from Alabama to FAU. This is what he does. And again, I will say this over and over again. Ole Miss fans went into this Lane Kiffin situation with their eyes open. They knew what was going to happen. And if Ole Miss makes the playoff this year, it was worth it. Even what's going on right now and what's going to happen. And it could get nasty if we're going to be honest about it.
Yeah, it's going to get nasty. He's going to absolutely take the cream of the crop out of Ole Miss to wherever he goes, which it would appear right now it's leaning LSU. He would do the same if he's going to Florida, which he might end up in Florida. There's no guarantee he's going to LSU, but it looks like there's a high likelihood that's where he's headed. That's exactly what he did at Tennessee. When he left, it was right before National Signing Day, and he did everything he could to get the recruits, the best recruits, to go to USC instead of going to Tennessee. And he gutted the coaching, and he grabbed all his assistants and everybody, and they hightailed it to USC. That's just a fact. That's not conjecture. That's what happened. So, Ole Miss fans, if he leaves, yeah, he's going to gut your program. That's just, I don't know what to tell you. And it sucks. All right, now we need to talk about Eli Drinkwitz. He's been popping up on boards everywhere, and he's been kind of lurking on some boards, but he's moved into second place for LSU if they don't get Lane Kiffin. There you go. Call it a distant second, but he's right there. And look, they got Nick Saban tied with him. Well, I don't think so. And I don't mind telling you, and certainly the Tennessee folks out there, they're glad to see him in second place for LSU, because a lot of hot boards out there had Josh Heupel as one of the highest on the list. And I'm glad to see that that's not resurfacing, and I hope it just really stays low key, because Josh Heupel is going to get a phone call. If that were to happen, if LSU did not get him and he went to Florida, Lane Kiffin I'm talking about, he'd get a phone call. And Florida'd call him too, just to see if there's any interest. And typically, you're going to listen. And he said, it's been quoted that he said he would listen, if it was the right program, which any coach would. But we don't need to lose Josh Heupel. So I'm very glad to see Eli Drinkwitz on this list ahead of – I'm not even seeing his name right now, which, again, I know he's on hot boards, but I'm just looking for any reason not to think of him going to LSU. That would be a nightmare. And if he went to Florida, oh God. Anyway, we'll talk more about Eli Drinkwitz. And Eli would be a great choice because he's proven in the SEC. He's won at a very high level at a place that's hard to win, and you haven't seen any trouble up there. So he'd be a good, solid choice. And look, he lost his defensive coordinator. He went to LSU. And I guess they could be reunited. But Eli would be a solid choice. And then you see he's listed right now for Florida. They've got him fourth on these odds. Lane Kiffin, of course, is number one. Then Jamie Chadwell, Deion Sanders. Deion's, I don't know. And then Eli Drinkwitz. Eli's the safe choice because, again, he's proven in your league. So he'd be easy to sell to the fan base, even though both fan bases would be distraught if they don't get Lane. They're both all in. And then if he stays at Ole Miss, look for craziness. That's when things are going to – it'd be like taking the checkerboard and just throwing everything up in the air because you're going to have pieces moving everywhere. But that's probably not going to happen. It sounds like he's leaving. You can kind of tell just by his mannerisms and just the things he's not saying. And he's probably going to gut your program because that's just what the guy does. And I'm sorry for you, Ole Miss, to hear that. I know you don't want to hear it. And it stinks. It totally, believe me when I tell you, I know how that feels. It sucks. But that's who Lane, he's doing yoga and he's changed. He's made good for him. Good. I'm glad he's made improvements, but he's still Lane Kiffin. Don't ever doubt that. And this business of, oh, he's changed. Look, you know what he did for 5 straight years at Ole Miss? I'll show you. Yeah. Does that look like somebody that's going to be super ethical and be concerned about your feelings? He was doing fake injuries, 10, 12 a game. He doesn't care. He just wants to win. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, boom, and boom. Hit that button right there. It won't cost you a dime. For you folks watching on TV, I know it's not easy to subscribe. Go to your smartphone. Just pull up one of my videos right underneath it. You just, boom, you hit subscribe button. That's the easy way to do it if you haven't already. I'd appreciate it. And right over here's the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
Anyway, the good Lord would never disrupt the best game of my life.